It's 12 past 3.
Alrighty, we are back. Hello, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. So tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about cremation because we had a discussion a while ago about the ashes that people keep in their homes.
Like a family tree of ashes.
Yes, exactly. And we'll get to that. But first, what do you have for us tonight?
I will be talking about the body farm. I am sure most people are either curious or creeped out hearing the term body farm. I can only imagine what first comes to mind when I bring it up.
Bodies
And a farm.
and a farm.
Whenever crime scene investigators or forensic investigators come across a body, one of the first questions is, how long has this person been dead? Knowing whether someone died yesterday, last week, or months prior is vital to the direction of an investigation. Environmental factors have a big impact on the decomposition of a body, which can alter how the timeline appears. A way that investigators can study and get an idea of how these environmental factors can change the timeline of natural decomposition is at a place called the Body Farm. Now, despite its strange name sounding like a serial killer's grounds, it's actually an outdoor research facility where scientists study human decomposition to improve criminal investigations. I will explain what body farms are, how researchers conduct their studies, why this is valuable to law enforcement, and some of the ethical issues surrounding a facility like this.
Now, are there more than one body farm?
There are more than one. It first started off with one, but now there's multiple across the US.
Interesting.
First, let me explain what a body farm is. A body farm is an outdoor laboratory where donated human bodies decompose naturally under controlled scientific conditions. Researchers observe every stage of decomposition to better understand what happens to the human body after death.
How long do they keep the bodies at the farm?
So they actually keep the bodies permanently, but they only keep them in the outside elements for 1 to 2 years.
And then what happens with the remains after that?
They will clean the remains and label them and keep them in archives for further research.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
I always assumed that, like, when you donate your body to science, you know how the family usually gets the ashes back.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yes, that was one of the most surprising things I learned researching the body farm, is that the family actually doesn't get the bodies back.
Yeah, that is really crazy.
The first body farm opened in 1981 at the University of Tennessee, founded by forensic anthropologist Dr. William Bass. It actually wasn't Dr. Bass's original plan to create a facility like this. He was involved in an investigation of a murder where a body was discovered in an old grave, and based on that body's condition, he believed that the person had died recently. But upon further investigation, it was learned that the remains belonged to a Civil War soldier that was buried 100 years earlier.
What? How can you be that far off?
I don't know if it was like just the area they were and it preserving the body so well,
Wow.
which
Okay.
made him want to investigate further.
Yeah.
A mistake like this brought to light that scientists knew very little about human decomposition, and Dr. Bass wanted investigators to use scientific evidence rather than educated guesses, which, yes, would be very helpful in an investigation.
Yes. Because that is probably the most important question, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Today, several universities across the United States have similar forensic anthropology research centers. From the first research center in 1981 at the University of Tennessee, it took 26 years before the next one was opened.
That's interesting because You would think they would want to research bodies in different parts of the country.
Yeah.
Yet it took 26 years for them to open up additional facilities. Of course, I don't know how hard it is for them to find bodies. So
Yeah, if it's a new thing, I'm sure people are a little wary about it.
yeah, and probably communities
Yeah.
having body farms put up in their...
Imagine they don't like that.
Yeah.
Every body that is used for this research comes from a voluntary donation program. Before death, people choose to donate their bodies specifically for forensic research, similar to donating organs or donating for medical education. Once a body is received, researchers will place bodies into different environments, such as leaving them in direct sunlight, under heavy shade, buried, shallow graves, submerged in water, wrapped in blankets, enclosed in vehicles, or hidden under brush.
Not to be morbid here, but you didn't mention freezers, which seems to be a common location for bodies.
Yeah. Maybe they are in freezers.
Yeah.
There's a wide variety of what conditions they put them in.
Yeah.
I think this one might just be outside settings. I'm sure maybe they have research for inside, but I mostly see about like outside settings, which makes sense because you never know how the environment is going to affect decomposition. Each setting helps scientists understand how environmental conditions affect decomposition. Researchers will collect information on air temperature, ground temperature, humidity, rainfall, sunlight exposure, animal and insect activity, and soil activity. Each day, a photograph of the remains is taken, observations are recorded, and physical changes are measured. When it comes to insect activity, researchers will see different insects at different stages of decomposition. Within minutes after death, blowflies arrive. They'll lay their eggs and hatch into larvae, commonly called maggots.
It is amazing how quickly they can appear.
Yeah.
Not to get too graphic, but let's say when you're walking your dog and he does his business, how quickly the flies appear.
Well, I want to know,
where did they come from?
Yeah, are they just waiting around? Like,
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I've thought about that too, not to be weird.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to think about how bugs just, they know where to go.
Yeah, and they appear fast.
Yeah. Do you think they make an announcement to all the other bugs around, like, hey, come over here, like...
Fresh poo.
Oh. Forensic entomologists use the information of these bugs to estimate how long someone has been dead. Researchers will study the 5 major stages of decomposition. The first one is the fresh stage. Although the body is relatively unchanged in appearance, important biological changes have begun. Then the second one is bloat. You have gases produced by bacteria accumulating and causing the body to swell. The third one is active decay, is when tissues break down rapidly, insects become active, and the strongest odors develop. The fourth one is advanced decay. Most soft tissue has disappeared and there is less material for insects to consume. And the last one is skeletonization, where only bones, cartilage, hair, and a few remaining tissues are left behind. Scientists will also use advanced technology such as drones to photograph research areas, 3D scanners to create a detailed digital model, weather stations to record environmental conditions, DNA analysis to identify degraded remains, and soil testing to study how decomposition affects surrounding ecosystems.
I imagine they have to worry about animals as well, right?
Yeah.
I suppose they do have fences, I assume.
Yeah.
But vultures.
I think that's, they do record like animal activity as well because, yes, it's a controlled area, but when you're out in the wild, in an uncontrolled area, you're going to have animals. But I think it's very limited because you don't want an animal running off with the remains.
Taking the parts off the farm.
Yeah. That would not be good.
No, that would be disturbing.
So the biggest reason why this all matters is to have a better idea of estimating the time of death. If investigators know approximately when someone died, they can compare that information with surveillance footage, witness statements, phone records, and suspect alibis. Body farm research also helps locate hidden graves. Researchers study how buried bodies affect soil, vegetation, and even surrounding plants. Specialized equipment can detect these subtle environmental changes. Body farms are also valuable training sites. Police officers, crime scene investigators, medical examiners, forensic anthropologists, FBI personnel, military investigators, search and rescue teams, cadaver dog handlers, they can all practice locating and recovering human remains in realistic environments. The research also helps identify victims after natural disasters, airplane crashes, hurricanes, floods, wildfires, and other mass casualty events. Scientists can distinguish between trauma caused before death and changes that occurred naturally after. That distinction is extremely important in court. Expert testimony based on scientific research is much stronger than simple opinion. And families also benefit. More accurate investigations can identify unknown victims faster and provide families with long-awaited answers. Although body farms provide tremendous scientific value, they also raise ethical questions. Many people wonder where the bodies come from, which is voluntary donation. Individuals sign legal documents before death expressing their wish to contribute to forensic science. Researchers treat every donor with dignity and respect. Facilities maintain strict security. Access is limited to authorized researchers and students. Contrary to popular belief, body farms are not tourist attractions.
Why is that a popular belief? I can't imagine somebody would think that you could tour a body farm.
I feel like a lot of people get so fascinated with something like this that they just immediately want to go look around.
Well, I guess I can see that, understand that, but to think that they can do that is something different.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting because I've had interest in becoming a forensic pathologist, which is medical examination, but I would never want to go there for fun. It would be strictly for education reasons.
Yeah, and I would never want to go there.
Yeah. So don't worry, the public cannot simply walk through.
Good.
Researchers follow strict ethical guidelines designed to honor donors while advancing science. Many donors choose body farms because they believe they can continue helping others after death. Instead of benefiting one medical student, their donation may improve thousands of future criminal investigations.
It's fascinating to me, because I never knew this, that the families never get the remains back.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was the case. Again, like I thought it was similar to when you donate your body to science, that you would get the ashes or, get the body back to have a funeral.
Yeah, that has to be hard. I can see why family members would be objecting to somebody wanting to donate their remains.
Yeah, I agree. It's got to be difficult with the grieving process, but hopefully a lot of families realize that this is helping future families in unfortunate times.
It's also crazy how complicated the whole process is. What they go through just to identify time of death, and then all of the different researchers and investigators and medical people that get involved in learning what goes on there and how to identify remains.
Yeah, it's a whole team to figure out the timeline and how the person ended up there and their decomposition process.
And before you continue, I wanted to go back to something you said about the identification of bodies, specifically airplane victims and wildfire victims, because I never thought that they studied bodies that have been burned at the body farm. I didn't think they did that.
So they actually do study bodies that have been put through fires. They will set a body on fire, as morbid as it sounds, and it'll be in a controlled environment. So they'll be surveilling that. But it makes sense because they do need to be able to identify and understand what the decomposition looks like after a body has been burned.
Yeah, certainly. I just never thought that occurred. Never thought about that, which is really interesting.
I feel like that's not one you really would think about too often compared to like shallow graves or in water.
Right. But it makes sense because you do hear about people burning bodies to destroy evidence.
That is true. Hollywood often exaggerates forensic science. Television shows make it seem like investigators solve crimes in an hour using perfect technology.
Bones.
To be fair, they do go over several days, but they do make it seem like it's easy peasy.
Yeah.
Real forensic science is a lot slower. It requires years of research, careful observation, and evidence collected over decades. Much of that knowledge comes directly from body farms.
Again, fascinating that they put so much work into this research and that it wasn't until 1981 until it started.
I know it makes you wonder about the times before that, before they realized the mistake they made on the Civil War soldier being 100 years prior versus more recent. How many other cases have they made that same mistake before they started researching?
Right.
So I'll leave you with one final thought, hopefully more positive look on it. Most people hope to leave a legacy after they die. For body farm donors, that legacy may be helping solve a murder, identifying a missing person, bringing closure to grieving family, or ensuring justice is served. In that way, even after death, they continue saving lives, not by preventing death itself, but by helping uncover the truth.
I imagine that the donor list is private, but you'd think it would be nice for them to get some type of recognition for the sacrifice they made by giving up their body.
That would be nice to have some recognition, but I am sure it's private. But maybe some people don't want anyone to know that their family donated their body to that.
True.
And I feel like maybe that's different to some people compared to donating your body to science or donating your organs.
And the truest form of donation is not being recognized for it.
That is true as well. You don't need credit to save and help the future.
Definitely. Anything else?
That is all I have for us tonight.
Well, that was interesting. I learned a lot. I thought I knew about the body farm, but a lot of things I didn't know.
Yeah, there's a lot to uncover with that, especially with the history behind it as well. So now that we're done with that, you had mentioned that you were going to talk about cremation.
Yeah. So like I mentioned, we had a discussion about ashes, which I want to get into that discussion a little more. But in thinking about that, I decided to do a little research on cremation, and I was actually surprised at how much I learned about the history, the process, and the different ways people honor the remains of their loved ones. So another history lesson here. I apologize for that, but I'll try to keep it brief and hopefully interesting. I imagine we have all seen the movies where they're placing the bodies on the pyres and burning them.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's any surprise. It wasn't any surprise to me that cremation has been around for a while. but I didn't realize how far back it goes and how prevalent it was in history. I learned that cremation can actually be traced back to the Stone Age, but organized practice, as we would recognize it, began around 3000 BCE, which is still a long, long time ago. That was in Europe and the Near East, where they actually found pottery urns that were used. So they not only were cremating, but they were saving them in urns.
Interesting.
Yeah, as far back as 2500 BCE, they even had dedicated cemeteries for cremated remains.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Known as urn fields.
Urn fields. Okay.
Yeah. The urn fields were actually the precursor to modern-day columbaria. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I've seen some different pronunciations. But a columbarium is a structure for the respectful storage of urns, similar to a mausoleum.
That makes sense.
But designed specifically with niches to place urns. So I'm not going to say the name of that again.
Okay.
I'm going to try to avoid it. But going back to the Stone Age, which really surprised me, I was wondering if they intentionally practiced cremation, or they just hadn't gotten the hang of fire yet.
Oh. Maybe it's both. Maybe that's how they got the idea of it.
Maybe, yeah. So the predominant method of cremation at the time was the open funeral pyre, essentially a large wooden structure built specifically for the purpose. The size and quality of the pyre was directly tied to social status and honor. The more significant the person, the larger and more elaborate the pyre. For the most honored, warriors and nobility in particular, weapons, horses, and other animals were placed on the pyre alongside them. That's sad.
Animals?
Yeah.
Like live animals?
Well, I'm assuming they had to maybe kill them to put them on theirs.
Oh.
But basically just giving them everything they would need for whatever came next. So given the pyre is designed for status, I would assume my pyre would consist of a couple of twigs.
I feel like mine would be a bonfire. They just throw me in.
Cow's bonfire just...
Yeah.
It was around 400 AD that the Christian burial practice gradually took over due to the differences in beliefs, in part on how remains should be handled to allow a person to move on to the afterlife. And in the 700s AD, a decree was issued by a Christian ruler making cremation punishable by death, framing it as a pagan practice that Christians must not adopt.
Why is it always back to pagans and being anti anything to do with them?
I know. But it was interesting to me that cremation was the predominant method for a long time. I knew cremation existed, I just didn't know it was so predominant, at least in Europe.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
After that era and that decree, the shift went from predominant cremation to predominant burial. And later, the Catholic Church actually used cremation as a form of punishment and desecration against heretics.
Now I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Who is it punishing? Because if you were already dead, respectfully, why do you care?
Well, but they believe in the afterlife, right? So they're burning the bodies and scattering the ashes to specifically deny someone proper burial rites and possibly deny them proper movement to the next whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah. Cremation as we know it today can probably be traced back to the Vienna Exposition in 1873, where Professor Brunetti demonstrated a chamber that could regulate heat and replace the open pyre. Basically a proof of concept of indoor cremation.
Okay. I didn't realize it was that far back either.
Yes. And it's really interesting that it was demonstrated at the Vienna Exposition, which is basically a world fair, right? So can you imagine standing around with your cotton candy, corn dogs, eating your Indian fry bread, watching a cremation demonstration.
Yeah, what with what too?
Well, it said that he actually had 4 pounds of cremated human remains with him, but I don't know what he actually burned in the. I hope it wasn't an actual body, but
I mean, you never know, honestly.
so pretty soon after that, the first official crematoriums were established in Italy, and the first one here was in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Now, not to drag on here, but I have to admit, before I read that about the crematoriums, I never really thought about the process and how cremation is actually a multi-stage process. The chamber must first be preheated.
Like an oven?
Yes. To operating temperature before the body is introduced.
Okay.
And interesting fact, the chambers have to reach 1400 to 1800 degrees. Once the remains are placed inside, the process happens in stages. Soft tissue burns first, then bone. Getting kind of gross here, but
Yeah.
bone is extremely dense and requires sustained heat to fully break down. The body isn't actually actively on fire the entire time. The chamber maintains temperature while the body's own organic compounds contribute to combustion.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. After the cremation itself is complete, the chamber must cool. Then any metal objects that may have been on the person, surgical implants, joint replacements, dental work, must be removed. And interestingly, the metals don't go to waste. They are usually recycled. Recovered titanium and cobalt, finding their way into everything from aircraft engines to wind turbines.
That's kind of spooky to
Yeah.
think that you're on a plane with somebody's old hip replacement.
Haunted planes. Like that plane crash we talked about in the Everglades
Yeah.
a while back, where the parts were repurposed onto other planes and ghosts started appearing. Another interesting fact is that the bone fragments are then processed in a separate device called a cremulator, essentially a grinder,
Oh.
which reduces them to a fine ash that is what the families actually receive. The ashes that people receive are primarily processed bone.
I guess that makes sense.
And the entire timeline of the processing is about 3 to 4 hours.
I can't tell if I thought it would be longer or shorter than that.
Yeah, I would have thought longer, maybe.
I think I would have thought that too. I'm sure maybe back in the old days it took a lot longer.
Yes, I'm sure they have improved the process.
Yeah.
So the two major factors in the drive towards cremation as we know it today, for how popular it is today, popular is probably a bad word, but the Catholic Church actually lifted the ban on cremation in 1963. Although burials were still preferred, that decision went a long way in driving modern-day cremation, which is at a rate of about 63% today.
Wow. So they made up with the pagans?
Yes, or at least live with them. The other factor is the space issue, especially in highly populated urban areas.
Now, when you say space issue...
Space issues for burying rather than cremation.
Okay.
In highly populated urban areas, they're running out of room for grave sites, for cemeteries.
That makes sense. You can only bury so many bodies in one area.
Yes. Another interesting fact is that in European countries, in many European countries, graves are not permanent. They're leased for a set period of time, typically 10 to 30 years, and then they're given up for new burial.
Oh.
And don't ask me what happens to The concept of permanent graves is actually more of an American and British expectation, not the global norm.
So do you have to pay more money if you want a new grave rather than a used grave?
I don't know. I didn't see that.
I never thought about having to reuse a grave.
A common practice is that they remove remains and they put remains in and they start stacking them, literally. And more for families, I suppose, that your family members can be stacked in the same grave.
I would hope it's family members. I would not want to be stacked with a stranger.
Yeah, that would be disturbing. Japan, which is a densely populated island country, actually has a cremation rate of about 99%.
Wow.
They've actually come up with an interesting solution. They have automated, I said I wasn't going to say this word again, columbarias, where families are issued a card to swipe when they visit. Within a minute, a robotic system retrieves their urns from storage and brings them to a private prayer booth. A mini shrine unit is called a zushi, not to be confused with sushi.
I was just thinking that.
And it can hold up to 8 urns, allowing entire families to be stored together and retrieved in a single visit.
Interesting. I guess it makes sense for me to think sushi instead of zushi because this whole system made me think of a vending machine.
I had that exact thought. I would not want to be stuck near the 3-week-old ham sandwich.
No.
So I thought all that was interesting. I learned a lot. I hope it was interesting.
It was interesting to me.
But getting now to, which is a common practice here at least, is people taking the ashes and bringing them home. I don't know if that's to have their relatives closer or it's just cheaper than having to rent a space to keep the ashes. Or well, here would be buy, right?
Yeah.
Or not lease, but then I was looking at the different creative ways that people honor their loved ones and their ashes. A couple of interesting ones. There's actually a company that will place ashes in shotgun shells.
Interesting.
Yes, so you can actually, I guess, hunt with them or maybe go to the skeet shoot range. Vinyl records.
I think I've heard that one before.
Yeah, that sounded familiar to me when I read that. Diamonds. I think we've heard that before, right? Comic book ink. Marvel editor Mark Grunwald had his ashes mixed in the ink of a reprinted edition.
Did he sell it or for the family?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't look that up.
You're like the lucky,
sell it.
You're the lucky winner of
the
cremated remains in a comic book.
Yeah. Your favorite Pringle can, the inventor, was buried in a Pringle can.
Oh, okay. Not like made into chips.
No. Oh, God. But only the family members got them.
Oh, gosh.
A Frisbee. The man who created the Frisbee had his ashes made into memorial Frisbees and distributed to family members and friends.
Interesting. That would suck if you lost that Frisbee in a tree.
Yeah, really. That reminds me of a joke. I was wondering why Frisbee gets larger when it gets closer to you, and then it hit me. Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Tattoo ink.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, that would be kind of weird.
Wouldn't that... I feel like that has to be some issue health-wise.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, tattooing can be sketchy to begin with.
Let alone putting somebody's cremated remains.
Yeah. Probably the coolest one, I think, was fireworks.
Okay.
That would be interesting.
That is interesting.
Although I wouldn't want to be downwind.
Yeah.
Probably some of the weird ones. 3D bust urns. This is so weird. Would you want to bust a me in your home?
Respectfully, I feel like that's a little centered, self-centered.
More disturbing is teddy bears. A huggable collection of teddy bears so you can hug your loved ones to death.
Now, I've heard
Oh my
people
gosh.
like going and putting the voice recordings into bears of their loved ones.
That's so bizarre.
I can get behind that, but I feel
No,
like
no.
no?
No.
Putting a voice recording?
No, that's weird.
How is that weird?
I don't know. Just
That's not any weirder than putting ashes in.
take some family movies and then watch those. No, I don't think you should have huggable bears either. I don't think you should have your ashes in a bear. That seems like a cursed item waiting to happen.
Yeah. And what if, like, I'm assuming it would be like in a baggie, or is it like in an urn?
I don't know. Yeah, it didn't say. It must put them in some type of concealed container, I would hope.
Because if it's in a baggie and it broke and you're like trying to dust it off, well, how do you know if it's dust or ashes?
Squeeze the bear and dust everywhere. Ugh. No thanks.
If you were to be put in any stuffed animal, what stuffed animal would you want to be put in?
I don't know. I don't want to be in a stuffed animal.
If you had to choose, would you want a teddy bear? Would you want a stuffed dog? A stuffed cat?
No. A unicorn?
You want to be in a unicorn?
No. I don't have an answer for that. I don't know. It's just never entered my mind before. And now it won't leave.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'd say a cat or a raccoon.
Raccoon?
I don't know. I've been on a raccoon kick lately.
You want a pet raccoon?
I want a pet raccoon.
So if you had a pet raccoon or cat and they passed away and you had them taxidermied, could you then put your ashes in them?
Oh. I don't know. I remember when my first cat passed away, I was thinking, like, if I were an adult and I had my own money, would I taxidermy her? But now that I'm older, I just can't.
No, thank you.
I'm not going to disrespect people who do that. But me personally, from my grieving process, cannot handle that.
Yes, I could not handle that. That'd be too bizarre.
Yeah.
But so a long road to what we were discussing. People have the ashes and they take them and they store them in their home or display them in their home. And what we had talked about was I had said that we have the remains of our parents, numerous animals. There's probably 7+ sets of remains in this house. And then when we pass away, what do you do with them?
I honestly wonder that because you guys need to say what you want done with your ashes, because I feel like I am such a sentimental person. I'm going to be like, I don't want to like spread them. They never said to spread them somewhere.
Okay, so we say that, but then you still have all the others.
I'll just put you with your parents. Or put your parents with you. I can't have a whole family tree of ashes in my home.
Yeah, and then where does it end? Because if you kept them and then added to the collection, so now you have 15 sets of ashes in your home, and then your kids, and et cetera, where does it end? Or do you dispose of them? How? Or do you sell them?
Sell them?
Yeah, I was wondering if, and I couldn't find any real information on this, but I was wondering if there's people who actually collect. Now, I know people buy urns right?
Yeah.
And I know like eBay and other sites like that have policies against selling human remains, but I don't think they police them. So when they sell an urn or an urn gets sold at an estate sale, that they actually check to make sure that it's empty.
I don't know. How do you police that? Like, especially on an online site. You can't really, like, they can't really.
No, they don't. So
investigate.
they have the policies, but they don't really police it. And how would you? But then again, I mean, who really cares?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you're going to buy an urn, expect there to be remains in it.
Yeah. Now, there could be people who wanted the urn. They find the ashes and they just dump them.
Yeah, what?
But I honestly wonder if there are people out there that actively look for and collect urns of human remains. They collect everything else.
I wouldn't be surprised. I feel like I've seen an episode back in the day when My Strange Addiction was on TV of someone who
Don't say eat. Don't say eat. Please.
consumed
Oh, God.
cremated remains. So if that's a possibility, I imagine it's a market.
Oh, God. Well, I guess that doesn't surprise me considering the few episodes I have seen of that show, which is utterly disgusting. Human remains would probably be one of the least disgusting things I've seen people eat on that show.
Really?
Well, I thought I saw one where somebody had an addiction of picking the drain in the bathtub.
And ate it?
I don't think they were eating the stuff they picked out of the tub in the shower. I think they like to smell it.
Oh, that's not any better.
Not much. Anyway, after that disgusting sidetrack there, I don't think we have an answer to our question of what happens to all these ashes. We'll leave you a list of what you can do with them.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just put you guys all in fireworks and that'll be like your final send-off.
There you go. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Alrighty, on that note, anything else?
I don't think so.
Alrighty. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for listening. Join us next time for more weird and creepy stories. Please join us on our website at 12past3.com and connect with us on our social media, or you can even email us at podcast@12past3.com.
Good night.
Good night.